Yeah, it's a difficult one, Matt, because yes, we didn't have the social media. Um, I wouldn't say it was the pressure of the Premier League. Um, I think it was more to do with my outside life. I just wasn't happy in my outside life. Um, and football was obviously part of that. You football is quite a lonely world because when you're playing for your national team, when you're playing for, and at the time Blackburn were a top six Premier League team.
Yeah.
We was in Europe
Mhm.
traveling. I was always away with my national team. So at that time, I was away for 2 weeks with my national team.
Yeah.
Then Blackburn, because everywhere was literally a distance, we would fly um, to London, fly to Newcastle, and stuff like that. So that would be gone on a Friday. So you'd be gone on a Friday, come back Saturday evening. Then, or if I was away with Wales, I'd go on a Friday, and then as soon as I'm done, I go straight to Wales after. So I'm in Wales on the Saturday, Sunday,
Yeah.
and I'm there for 2 weeks. Then if you're, as I said, because we're in Europe, so then we would go away like on a Tuesday to play on a Thursday. You're in work every day. Um, then you're playing once the season's finished. You got games. I remember there was one time I played for Wales in New York against Mexico, which is great. And all of these things are great, but you're alone and you spend a lot of time alone because you're in your hotel room. And you may spend time with your friends. Yes, you may spend time with your mates, and talking, laughing, playing cards, whatever, but still you're alone, you know?
It's not the same. It's not the support network of your family, is it, and your loved ones?
No, no. And they're all things that happen. They're all things that are part and parcel of it. Though they are great, you do feel quite alone. And it can become a dark place. As I said to you, like for me, I developed an eating disorder where I was trying to keep my weight down. As I said, no one knows that, and they're all things, and that's when I relate back. And as I said, that's when my depression started, and it just took in 2015. A lot happened in a very, very short space of time that basically just sent me over the edge.
Tips you over the edge, and it does. Something look, it has to, yeah. But then,
Yeah.
I suppose the way that we try and look at it is if we've got rock bottom, then the only way we can start going is back up the other way. So,
Yeah, which is difficult when you're at rock bottom because that
yeah,
bit of light is very, very small,
yeah.
very small.
Right. Let's try and talk about football then a bit more.
Yes.
Um, right. So, where do we get to? We got to Gills. You signed your contract. Hesse took
Yeah.
you on. Um, then you didn't make your debut till I think it was March 2002.
Yeah.
Um, but when you first came in, what were your aims, Jason? Because obviously you come into a squad that had Vince Bartram. He
Mhm.
played at Wembley twice, got us promoted into the Championship or Division One. Sorry for the older and the younger fans, so they know which one it was. Um,
Mhm.
did you have any sort of aims in terms of how many appearances you wanted to make, or was it just a case of get your head down, work as hard as possible, and see where that took you?
Yeah, it wasn't a matter of I've never been one of them. I want to make X amount of appearances. I've never really thought like that. I've always just looked at the competition, if you want to say, and say, okay, where do I see myself? And I came in. Obviously, Vinny had the reputation. He'd been at Arsenal, and he'd done well for Gillingham beforehand. But I came in, and then I worked with him, and I just felt that I had a chance. I just felt working with Dean Kiley and people and the likes of Simon Royce compared to working with Vinny. I felt that okay, and I felt I gave them a good run for their money. But I definitely felt here at that time, you know what, there's a real opportunity. I've just got to be patient. I've just got to keep working hard. And I think a lot of people, if I'll be honest, I think a lot of people in training realize that as well. That, oh, wow, this guy's come in. And, I think I remember at the time, a couple of senior players would say to me, like, just keep doing what you're doing. Your chance is going to come. You know, and I wasn't getting frustrated or nothing. I was just getting on with it. The only little bit of frustration, the only time a little bit of frustration did kick in is sometimes when Hesse would not have a goalkeeper on the bench. And I was sitting in the stands, and that was a little bit frustrating because I felt I deserved more than that. And
yeah,
but you know,
what was it then? It was would it have been, it was we'd probably just gone to 5 subs then, hadn't we?
yeah, five subs. But I just felt, you know, at the time I felt Hesse probably it was, I think, because he was new to management and he had played with a lot of people. I think it was probably an easier decision to not have me on the bench than maybe not have some others.
Because maybe that could have been the age thing as well, yeah.
Oh, for sure, yeah. With I say the age thing. I say the age thing more so because they was more senior than me.
So it's easier to say, oh, we take 21-year-old Brownie off the bench and we can put the 30-year-old centre back on there, or the 31-year-old centre midfielder.
Like
of course.
Yeah, for sure. You could put Guy on there or AD or someone like that, you know. And as I said, I think that was in his early years. Well, because he was new to management and he had played with a lot of them. That was probably the difficulty of decisions that he had, was trying to keep everyone happy and finding that balance, which is not easy.
Be hard because he's gone from being their teammate and their mate, and then he's got to try and change that and become a bit distant and almost be Hesse the manager. But at the same time, if he's player manager, then it makes it even more difficult because he's trying to do a mixture of the both bits. But you made your debut, I think it was March 2002, under Grimsby.
Yeah.
We won. Did we win? Was it Grimsby? We won.
Yeah, we won Grimsby. We beat Grimsby. Yeah, I think it was 3-0 or 3-1, something.
Yeah. And then you played 10 more times between March and the end of the season, which must have been a real boost for you. How did you find that? Because like you say, as much as you come in and you said, oh, I didn't want to play X amount of games, I just want to get me head down and we'll see where we go. And you believed in your own ability. It must have been good to be trusted to play that amount of games so soon after getting in the side, especially in the second tier as well. It wasn't like you dropped down into a League Two side where, no disrespect, you might think, oh, players would get more of a chance because the standard isn't quite so good. This was a Gillingham side in halfway up the championship and doing well, and Hesse trusted you to play games.
Yeah, no, of course. You know, he trusted us, and as I said, I think my performances in training and in reserve team games showed that. And you know, I feel that I made the most of them games that I played. You know, I think it was the second game against Nottingham Forest at home when I made the mistake, tripped over the ball.
I remember that one.
Yeah, I do as well. And you know, but after that, there was the away game against Ipswich where we won the game 1-0, and you know, I had not a bad game in that game, and you know, I think the performances showed that. But yeah, you know, playing, as you said, back then I was 20 in playing in the championship now at that age as a goalkeeper was unheard of, and the opportunity came, and I feel that I made the most of it. And the performances gave him a real hard decision, you know, to make for the following season. At the time, Gillingham may have also, you know, you can't help. I'm not taking anything away from myself in regards of my work ethic and my performances, and I feel the positivity that I brought to the team. But you know, finances also may have helped in regards of that, because you know, I don't know Vinny's contract or other players' contracts at the time, but people may have had in their appearance money, you know, and that might have been quite a lot. And that could have helped or forced the hand of myself playing it earlier than possibly. And that's just being honest, you know. But at the same time, I'm not taking anything away from my performances.
No, that's not, at the end of the day, that's not your problem, is it?
Yeah.
You've been put in the side, and if you're doing your job, regardless of how you've been put in the side, you're doing your job properly. So.
Yeah, but you know, I believe in being fair, and as I said, I'm not saying I don't. At the time, I didn't really think much about that, but now when I look back and I reflect on how the club worked and how everyone worked, you know, that may have played its part in me getting my opportunity sooner rather than later. But it's like anything, when you get your opportunity, it's what you do about it, right? And as I said, I reflect back on my time at Gillingham. I think it was, I'm quite happy with it. And, I thoroughly enjoyed my time.
Yeah, when you talk about taking your opportunity, and you've mentioned you put yourself in with a chance for the following season, you played 44 times in all competitions in 2002-03, so you were clearly doing something right. You mentioned the Nottingham Forest goal, obviously, and the trouble with goalkeepers, you know it all too well, is if you make a mistake, 9 times out of 10 it leads to you having your picture on the back page of the paper, and the other team have scored, unfortunately. And then they forget all the world-class saves you made coming up to that goal. But we finished 11th, and you've already mentioned senior players. Just how good was it playing in that Gillingham side at the time that we've already mentioned it. We were punching well above our weight, and I think that was the season we finished in our highest ever position, 11th in Division 1.
Yeah. It was, that was that was the season I started. And yes, we had the likes of Derby's, who just got relegated, who had been in the Premier League for a long time. They came down with the likes of Ravanelli's, Robert Lee's. You had the Ipswiches and the other teams that came down from the Premier League. So we had big clubs in our league, but we held our own. I think we beat all of them at home at Priestfield that season. And, playing against them was amazing. The club finishing 11th, I think we finished it was like 4 points just out, or 4 or 6 points just outside of the playoffs at the time.
We did miss out by, probably a couple of wins. I remember talking to Paul Shaw a few weeks ago, and I think we was within striking distance with games in hand, and we played. I think we had 2 games in hand, and we had them both at home, and we only took 1 point from 6. I think we drew to Rotherham, and then who were struggling and lost at home to someone else, and that killed all the momentum, unfortunately. But for Gillingham to be finishing 11th in the Championship was quite frankly a joke.
At that time, because our wage bill and everything, the size of the club, not being disrespectful compared to the clubs, because the clubs now, and that's when the Premier League was chucking money at clubs left, right, and centre. We was way punching, and that is the thing with football is, I can only imagine the conversations that would have been had. Do you want to look at it and say, right, we need some investment to kick on, or are we going to continue to keep going our ways? And I'm listen, again, I don't know the ins and outs of numbers, but I think everyone could see that the squad changed quite a lot. I think players like Paul Smith were out of contract. There was a lot of senior players out of contracts, and we had just seemed to just let them go. Let them run out.
Yeah, I think around that time was where we've been really good at sort of maybe phasing 1 or 2 out and bringing 1 or 2 in. Like I think the first season in the Championship, we brought in Chris Oak, we brought in Paul Shaw, we brought in Marlon King, and then the summer after we changed it again. I think Big Mama came in.
Well, I think you look at it, Matt, and you go, and this is only from my experience of being a head coach now and knowing how football clubs work. I look at it now, and again, maybe there was a little bit of taking advantage of Hesse being a new manager with regards to the way the squad was cut. Because as you said, from previous managers and previous regimes, the way they done it was, 1 or 2, where all of a sudden it was just like a lot.
And that was my point. I think then from that end of that 2-3 season, suddenly there was a lot that disappeared, and we didn't bring in the same quality to replace them. And then obviously we know that the season after we really struggled.
Yeah,
you can't almost answered my next question.
Yeah, you can't do that. You can't make huge cuts of not just squad players. I'm talking about first team players, regardless. Even if you have got someone ready to come or players ready to come in, you can't afford to make 4, 5, 6 changes to a starting 11 like that. And
because I think we lost loads from the team that had got us up. I think Pato retired. Ashby was coming to the end. I think Guy went to Brighton. Adi, I think, then retired, went into non-league because his knee started flaring up again. Obviously, we bought in Chris O, but that's 4, but you've only bought 1 in. And then I don't think the quality after that was probably the same as what it was. And you look at like the greatest Man United teams going back, like Ferguson was probably the best at it when he probably built 3 or 4 title winning teams before he retired. It just felt that in the end of that 2002-3 campaign where we had a real chance, and this is what Shaw said as well. He said that he thought we'd kick on and rebuild again and bring in some good players. And then he just said the people that come in that summer, he just thought, nah, something's not quite right here. And then proof was in the pudding. Unfortunately, the campaign after well, let's ask about you again, because you say you don't target appearances, but you only played 25 times in 2003-4, which obviously must have been frustrating after playing 40 plus.
Because my
injury, thinking I'm going to kick on now, and
my injury was not well managed. I got the thigh injury. So my quad, I tore my quad, and I was almost rushed. I was rushed back. Listen, I wanted to get back. I wasn't put under no stupid pressure. I was put under pressure to come back, but I wanted to come back. So, back then the physios didn't have to have the high qualifications like they have to have now. And, I came back way too early, and the proof was in the pudding. I came back, I played 45 minutes in a reserve game or a friendly game, and then I came back at the weekend, and then it went again. And then I was out for longer. Obviously, the club couldn't wait around for me. They brought Banksy in, and rightfully so. And Banksy was a very, very good goalkeeper, and obviously I had to fight for my place to try and get back in. But I also had to come back from my injury, which took a lot of time. And then I had to wait for my opportunity in the club, and the team wasn't doing well at all. The team was doing bad. And Banksy obviously had a hell of a lot to do, and he was doing brilliant in games. So I had to be patient. And then obviously the inevitable happened when obviously Hesse got released, and then Stan come in, and I'm still injured, and Stan made it very clear to everyone, if you're injured, then you're no good to me, and it was tough. And then it was trying to get back into the team, and I had to be patient. And it was frustrating. It was frustrating because before that, I was flying. And then all of a sudden that injury, and I just, as I said, it was a matter of mismanagement. And I look back now and I say, okay, well, obviously I know a lot more, and hindsight's a great thing. You say, what would you do differently? There's loads I would have done differently, but that's all part of it. And I didn't make as many appearances as I would like and that I should have done, and wanted to help the team. But that all comes down to also, you look back and you go, okay, the way the squad was going, the changes that were made. I'm not a great believer in we needed more experience, but we brought in the financial side of it. I think also we have to be fair that was when the
ITV digital collapsed.
Collapsed. So it was really difficult, but there was a lot of mismanagement on and off the pitch, and ultimately you're going to pay, and we did. We did the season after.
You mentioned Steve Banks already. Obviously, you was on the bench for that final day at Stoke, end of 03-04. I thought I'd wear that shirt today. I haven't got the golden one, unfortunately. Just how good was his save at the end? I mean, Banks by name and almost Banks by nature at the end to keep us in the division.
Yeah, no, Banksy done really well. He's a very accomplished goalkeeper, a very good goalkeeper. And he did. But it was just papering over the cracks, because then the next season we really struggled again. And it was a tough season. It was tough. But again, as I said to you, I can look back now that I've had the experience of being the other side, being a coach, being a CEO of a football club. I see how a football club should and shouldn't be run. And if it's, it's like anything. If it's not great at the top, then that's always going to eventually come through at the
It
lower.
filters down, I suppose, doesn't it? Eventually, it filters all the way down and onto the pitch. But yeah, you've already mentioned 2004-05. Unfortunately, it went the other way. It went to the final day again, and
Mhm.
you were in goal that day. I think Nottingham Forest,
Mhm.
and I think we were 2-1 up, weren't we? And then was it you and Jess or Eugene Bopp? I can never.
I can't remember.
Scored at the end, and
Yeah.
we went down with 50 points, which generally was enough to stay up, unfortunately. But you only played 17 times that season again. Was you still struggling with the injury, or?
Well, I had to try and get Banksy out, didn't I? Because he had done well, and obviously with the end of the season that he earned himself a lot of credit. I think I had a hand injury as well, so it was difficult for me, to get going and try and get in the team, and I had to be patient. And yeah, I think I made like 17 appearances, and you know, we got relegated because we just wasn't good enough. There's no two ways about it. We wasn't good enough. And
table doesn't lie at the end of the day, unfortunately, does it? You can always look
no,
at ifs and maybes and what if that had crossed the line in that game or I'd made that save in that game. But at the end of the day, we were below the line when it counted, and we went.
yeah, and that happened, and once that happened, I remember after the game, I just left immediately. And yeah, everyone was hurt and everyone was frustrated. I was, and I just wanted to get away. I couldn't get away quick enough. I think I went on holiday. Literally, no, I had international duty. I had to go and report for international duty, and then as soon as that was over, I was off on holiday and didn't really want to think about it. And then, yeah, back in for pre-season.
But on the flip side, you still played a huge part in what was the most successful Gillingham side ever.
Yeah, yeah, and I take great pride in that. And
that's what I say to anyone that I've interviewed who played in them championship years, because we finished, 13th, 12th, 11th, and then obviously the last two seasons we struggled. But you played a huge part in 02-03, and you played 40 plus games in a season where we finished 11th. So
yeah, no, thank you.
That. Again, with the benefit of hindsight, looking back now, and you can sort of appreciate it more than at the time when you were sort of in and amongst it, I suppose.
Well, what we needed, Matt, in that season, we only needed a couple of players added, a couple of players added, maybe another midfielder. I think at the time they brought in Simon Osborne,
who
was possibly coming to the end of his career, not being disrespectful. We probably needed someone a little bit younger, but again, that's difficult. Finances are going to dictate that, because that's going to cost a lot of money in wages. That's without a fee, and that's what we possibly needed. But we was in a market, and again, understanding it now and knowing where you are, the club was in a different market, and football was changing, and we wasn't changing with it. And the chairman probably needed a lot of help of more investment to try and make the club bigger, and it just didn't happen. But
he's still looking now, Jason.
Yeah, well, he always has been looking, but I think he's never really wanted to free up his control, which is understandable. I think he does love the club. I think obviously, he loves having a football club as well. And in order in football, you need money. There's no two ways about it. You need money,
especially in the modern game. Yeah, more so than when he bought the club 25 years ago. Yeah,
exactly. But yeah, when we got relegated and then Neil Cooper took over, bless him, rest in peace.
Yeah, definitely.
That was a real tough one for me, coming back, because I was totally isolated. The football, Neil Cooper, who was great with me, I must say that. He was great with me. I went and see him. I said, because they brought in Tony Bullock at the time.
I remember him.
Well, I went and seen Neil, and I said, "Where do I stand with this?" And he said, "Well, we brought in Tony, we've got Banksy. You can leave. You're not going to be part of the squad."
So this was the summer after the relegation. So this would have been 5-6.
Yeah. So he was like, "You can leave. You're not going to be part of the squad." And I was training by myself. I was training. We had a fitness guy, Russell, and I was training with him every day. I wasn't even training with the goalkeepers. I was just by myself. And I was like, wow, okay. So I was going into training every day. I wasn't involved in any of the games. And I was just by myself. So I was like, okay. So what happened is we agreed a deal with Millwall Football Club.
Right.
That's when Steve Claridge was manager. I went and met Steve. Mill had a pre-season friendly at the dinner. I went and met Steve. He said that he wanted me to sign. We agreed. Then I remember going in the next morning, driving into training the next morning. I think Gillingham had a game as well. And when I was driving in to go and get my boots and that, I got a phone call from my agent saying, Jason, you're not allowed to go. And I was like, what do you mean I'm not allowed to go? And he was like, I've just got a phone call from the chairman and he says you're not allowed to go to Millwall.
So this was from Paul Scally, so Paul had got the move.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, why? And he was like, their goalkeeper got injured last night. And they've said that you're not allowed to go. Banksy has agreed a deal and he's going to Arts. So I'm like,
so Banksy was leaving and Tony Bullock had got injured.
Yeah.
That's probably the best thing Tony Bullock did at Gills, to be fair.
So when that happened, I was like, okay, so I went in, I was fuming. I remember I went in, I didn't even park my car properly. I just pulled those little cars, the spaces at the front where you get the traffic wardens coming on. I didn't even care that day. I just parked my car there. I went in and I went, what's going on? And he went, look, Tony got injured last night and we think he's going to be okay, but you can't go right now. Can you give me 3 weeks? So I said, well, I need to speak to my agent. So they spoke to Millwall, they spoke to Steve Claridge, and Steve said, yeah, okay, but is Jason definitely going to come? And I was like, yeah, of course. So I stayed for 3 weeks and I played in, I think, a couple of pre-season games, and then it turned out the injury was going to be a lot worse.
So you've now gone from being third choice and training with a fitness coach to suddenly number one again.
Yeah, well, I wasn't even third choice. Danny Knowles, who was the young goalie, was third choice. I wasn't even third choice. But then the season was starting. And then I remember I played in a game at home. I think we played Colchester and we won 1-0. And I got man of the match and he rang me afterwards, Neil Cooper, and he was like, Jason, thank you. You've done brilliant. I just want to speak to you, to thank you. So I was like, okay. He's like, look, I didn't know nothing about you when I came in. He said, I just got told from the chairman that you're not going to be our goalkeeper and we need to find another goalkeeper. So I was like, okay.
So the decision came from the chairman, not the manager who's watching training every day.
Yeah. So I was like, okay. I was like, look, I appreciate that. For me, I'm going to be professional. I love the football club. I'll play, but I still want to go because, I don't think I've been treated right. I think the way I was treated.
Regardless who's made the decision, you've been mistreated by the football club.
Yeah. So I said, look, I will stay and play, but as soon as he's fit, I want to go. So he's like, okay. So, Steve Claridge was still being patient. But then I started playing more games. But then Tony Bullock's injury, the severity started coming out, that he had a bad knee injury prior to coming to Gillingham, and that had flared up. So
how's he got through a medical?
Neil Cooper brought him down from Scotland. He had him in Scotland, didn't he? And they was good friends.
And obviously Steve Banks, I think he went to Scotland. I'm not sure if he played in Scotland because I think Banksy had been with Gills in the early 90s as well. He'd had a loan spell when he was younger.
Yeah.
Well, I remember the summer Neil Cooper bringing in, it seemed like most of Scotland with him.
Yeah.
And I wish he'd left half of them up there, to be fair. But that's for another chat.
Yeah, well, Banksy went to Hearts, and so then I was like, okay, then I was playing and I was enjoying myself, and it was becoming harder to leave. But then it was the realization of the severity of the injury, and I was playing well, and I think what happened was he said to me, "Look, you can't go. Tony's injury is really bad, and Tony's going to be out for a long time." So I just went, "Okay." I said, "Okay, I'll get on with it," and that's what happened.
You have to know, don't you? You don't want to. If you keep thinking, "Am I going? Am I staying?" It's going to,
Yeah.
mess with your head, and you need to know what you're doing for the whole season. So at least if you might not have been entirely happy with that after being treated that way, but at least you've said right now, the next 6-8 months, I'll get my head down, I'll do the best I can.
Well, that was it. And Neil Cooper played a real big part in that because that was the first time me and him had really spoken. And he was a really nice guy. His man management skills were brilliant. His man management skills were top draw. But obviously the rest of it wasn't particularly great. And I remember speaking to him and I was like, "Do you know what? Yeah, I'm happy to stay." And then I stayed. Then obviously Neil left. Neil had some off the field issues and Jeppo took over, and I got on really well with Ronnie. Ronnie's a great guy. Got on really well with Ronnie, and I wanted to stay to play for Ronnie. That's the reality of it, and he wanted me to stay. Then my contract was coming to an end, and I was playing, and I was doing well, and my agent was meeting with met with Ronnie, and Ronnie was like, "Look, we want Jason to stay." So then my agent, so then Ronnie passed it on to the chairman, and my agent was going up to Priestfield for 6 weeks every Wednesday to have a meeting with the chairman to try and get my deal done. Now, I'll be honest with you, Matt, I wanted a 20% pay rise, and the reason I wanted a 20% pay rise, Matt, was because we just had our second child, or our second child was on the way.
Right.
My daughter, Aya, and I was on at the time £1,400, which is a lot of money. It's a lot of money, but I just felt that maybe a 20% pay rise, which 20% of 1,400 is it's not much. I think it's like £200, something like that.
200. Well, 10% would be 140. So 280. So say just under 300 quid. So you'd be taking yourself up to 1,700.
Yeah, that's why.
It's not millions, is it? But it
I
pays
think
for the nappies.
Well, I think in football, in football terms, you look at it and say, well, that's not a lot. That's nothing really. So I just wanted that because I just felt that I deserved that. And I think at the time I just won Players Player of the Year, Supporters Player of the Year, or something like that.
I've got that written down. You won Player of the Year that season.
So I felt that I deserved that. Then everything was fine. My agent was like, "Look, this is going to get done." So I was like, "Okay." Then I remember as the season finished, my agent called me and said, "The chairman says he wants you to take a 20% pay cut." So I was like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "How have I gone from a 20% pay rise, which was we agreed, to a 40% pay cut?"
But suddenly it's now a 40% difference.
Yeah, I'm like, wow. I'm like, okay. So I said, I can't accept that. I've got my little girl on the way, and we never heard nothing back from the chairman. We never heard nothing back. He never came back to say, "Look, what are you doing this? Are you doing that?" I went away and played for Wales, and I remember I played for Wales. Sheffield Wednesday was looking, as well as a few other clubs. Then I got a phone call from Kenny Jackett, who was at Swansea at the time.
Right.
And I still hadn't heard from the chairman or anyone at the football club. Then I got a phone call from Kenny Jackett at the time, and Kenny was like, "Look, we want you to come down to Swansea to meet us." Me and Hugh Jenkins, who's the chairman. I went down there, I met them. They showed me around. That's when the new stadium was being built.
Been done in there, wouldn't they? Yeah.
Yeah, and he showed me around Swansea and some places that maybe to live where other players lived and stuff like that. And then he said, he said, "Look, we want you. We really want you. Here's the deal." And I said, "Look, can I have 24 hours to think about it?" I drove home all the way back to South London. And he rang me on the way home. He said, "Look, have you had a thought?" I said, "Look, I'm still thinking." I said, "Can I have until tomorrow?" He said, "Yeah, fine." And then I got home. He rang me about 7 o'clock in the morning. And he was like, look, have you had any thoughts? And I said, okay, we'll do it. Yeah, we'll do it. She said, okay, will you come down today? I said, yeah, I'll come down today to sign it. So I was getting ready, getting my kids ready. And then as I was just driving out of the door, out of my gates where I live, I got a phone call from Mark Hughes saying he wanted me to come to Blackburn.
Which then becomes a no-brainer, I imagine.
Yeah, it was like, okay. And that's when, do you remember the Craig Bellamy debacle was going on with Liverpool and Blackburn? There was a lot to and froing.
Yeah.
So he was like, look, I'm just sorting out the Bellas thing, going to Liverpool. The chairman will ring you and he'll take it over. John Williams, the chairman, rang me. He's like, Jason, Mark said he wants to bring you in. We're really excited about you. Whatever Swansea offer you, we can double. We'll double it. So I was like, and the law of the Premier League. So he said, come up Monday, we'll get the deal done. So then I had to make the most difficult phone call ever to Kenny Jackett and tell him that I'm not coming, which was really tough, really, really tough. And he said, look, I understand
that, but
yeah, well, he said, look, I understand.
What division was Swansea in at the time?
He was in League One, same as Gillingham at the time.
So I'm sure he must have understood the fact that, it's a two-division dump.
Yeah, he said to me, look, I totally understand. He said, if I'll be honest, I knew Blackburn were coming in for you. That's why I wanted to get the deal done.
So that's why the chairman was phoning you through the night.
Yeah, that's it, because they had been on a coaching with one of the coaches at Blackburn. They'd been on a coaching conference, the A license or the pro license. Jack had been on with Eddie Novetzky, so he knew that they was going to try and sign me. So he said, look, I totally understand. He said, I wish you the best of luck. And me and him still stay in touch a little bit now. But and then I went to Blackburn. I didn't read anything, but I heard that obviously the chairman didn't say many great things about myself once I left. But the truth of the matter is I never, ever, ever heard back from him. And I just felt I was being held a little bit ransom because they knew I had my second child on the way. And
so you went from effectively agreeing a 20% pay rise on the back of being player of the year, to then getting told you're getting offered a contract at 20% less than what you was originally earning before you was player of the year, and then just silence after that to this day.
Yeah. The only time that I've spoken to them is obviously when I came back and there was I came back to the stadium, and I think they named the box after myself, but it was sad, but it was sad because I had a love for the club. I would have stayed there. I was willing to stay for another 2-3 years. I was happy. I had my I had my kids and everything was good. And of course, listen, don't get me wrong. You look and you say, oh, well, going to the Premier League is not bad. And of course it's not bad. And, I've learned so much and I've seen so much of the world that people can only dream about.
Yeah, sure.
It done great for me playing in the Premier League, though I didn't play as much as I would like to. But playing in the Premier League, there's no better fit. There's no better feeling. There's something no one can ever take away from me.
So who were the other keepers there then at Blackburn at the time?
Brad Friedel. So Brad was amazing. He played for
Villa, Liverpool, Blackburn. Then he went. I think he was still playing for Tottenham at 40, wasn't he? One of the very best in the Premier League ever.
Brad is an amazing goalkeeper. But I was just like, okay. I look back and I say it was sad. Well, at the time, I was sad, and I was panicking, and I just felt that I was being held ransom. And even I just didn't hear nothing. Not a phone call. Not look, we want you to stay, or look, have you thought about it? Nothing. Just nothing. And I think even in amongst that, I think you guys went and signed someone anyway. So a
long time ago now, 2006.
Yeah. So I think you guys went and signed someone, even so, and I just you go, okay, well that's cool, and obviously I went on to bigger and better things. I came back to Gillingham. I played against Gills, obviously for Blackburn. I think it was in one of the cup games. So
I think it was a Carling Cup game, a League Cup game. I think, a couple of seasons.
Yeah, I think 1-2-1 or something like that, or 2-0, something like that. But I look back and I go, okay, these things happen, and it's sad. Because after the season and everything that happened, but it is what it is. And I was as I said, I went on to Blackburn, and ultimately, Gans, listen, Gillingham playing wise was when we had our squad together because we had a great camaraderie we had a great team spirit. Blackburn, we had a great team spirit. Obviously, I played more games for Gillingham. I loved my time there. Blackburn, I learned so much because you're playing with some amazing footballers.
Yeah.
You know, that gave me the opportunity of playing against some of the best, like Ronaldo and Gareth Bowles and players like that. But, you know, I look back and I go, you know, I don't have a bitter taste or anything, but you look at it, you go, if things could have been so different if they was handled so much better.
Yeah, because that was, I've said at the beginning, I've sent you the questions in advance. That was one of my final sort of questions about your playing career, was obviously with the benefit of hindsight now, you became pretty much nomadic after Blackburn, didn't you? And you never really settled anywhere. You went on loan to a few clubs, but you were sort of playing handfuls of games here and then moving on. But then I suppose you've already answered it now. You eventually retired in 2015, and you've mentioned you had a breakdown and you had stuff going on in your personal life. So you can understand now, listening to what you've told me, that's probably made your decision for you, so to speak. But
yeah,
how frustrating was it the fact that you went to Blackburn and you thought, oh, again, I'm going to kick on again, and then it sort of, your career probably went the other way a little bit, unfortunately.
Well,
in terms of playing games, at least.
As I said to you, when I go to somewhere or something like, well, where I was going to a club, you always look at who's there. And when you went to Blackburn and you see Brad and you see him in the flesh and you train with him, you go, bloody hell, this guy's good, really. And Brad was really good. And, you know, as I said,
after you've been training with Tony Bullock.
Yeah. Brad was amazing. You know, for someone of his size and that, he was so quick, so agile. And Brad was brilliant. And I look back and I say, okay, you know, Brad was in control of his career and the way he played, but I felt that I pushed him. I definitely feel that I pushed him. We had a good working relationship, a really, really good working relationship, a very competitive one, but in the right way. We pushed each other, and I believe that I pushed him. You know, in the games that I did play, again, I think I quit myself. I quit myself well in the games, you know, that I did play. And it's just one of them things. He was just better than me. There's no two ways about it. Now, going to the other clubs, I decided I wanted to go on loan to Leyton Orient. You know, they couldn't believe they was going to get me. Sam couldn't believe when I went and asked him. You know, it's like, you want to go to? Yeah, I said, yeah, I want to go and play some games. You know, in Orient, and I played some games, and I enjoyed my time there, and that was interesting. That was a real eye opener for me in regards of, you know, the levels, and also the understanding and how to deal with individuals. You know, I went to Leyton Orient. I probably came across as maybe a little bit arrogant. I don't think I was, but I may well have done, because the thing is, Matt, when you're coming from a Premiership club and you're coming down to a League One club, that's a small club in London, you know, and the experience that I've learned from being at Blackburn, you know, I feel that I was mentally, experience-wise, ahead of my years. But I was probably the same age as a lot of them players in the Leyton Orient change room. And it may have come across, I'm trying to tell them what to do and how to do it. And these guys
and they're going, oh, why is he doing that when he's only a certain age? Leave that to the senior pros type thing.
Right. And we're playing week in, week out. And it came out, and what happened was it came out how much money I was earning as well. So I was earning a lot more than any of them guys in that change room. And that doesn't help. That makes things difficult, you know, because people do get jealous. And you know, some of them may have looked at that, hold on, he's coming in here, he's on loan, and he's telling us what to do. And that's my character. My character is not, and I wouldn't say I'm arrogant. I'm not arrogant, but I am one of them people, when I'm doing something, I take charge. I'm not one of them to take so much of a space. I learn about it. If I know about it and I know how to do it, and I know how to do it,
try and help other people to know.
Yes. I'm not going to be sitting back and going, okay, let me just let everyone, when I can help prevent something.
Because if you do that, the person who thinks he knows it might not be doing it properly, and then that could cost you 3 points on a Saturday.
Yeah. Yes, so I wouldn't say there was clashes, but there was maybe 1 or 2 clashes with 1 or 2 of the players in the changing room, and people may have felt about me in a certain way, which I look back again and I say, okay, you look at it, and would I do anything different? No, but it was a great eye opener for me, and I appreciate the experience that I got from that. Then I went to Cardiff. It didn't really work out there. Again, the Cardiff one was a weird one because I was misled on the deal that I was going into. I was misled on the loan. If I would have known what I had known, I wouldn't have gone. So I was misled on the loan, which then again killed me because the loaning system, you can only have a certain amount of players on loan in the squad, and they had an agreement. I think at the time Stephen Bywater was coming from West Ham, and West Ham made in the agreement that Stephen Bywater has to go and play, and he has to go and play, and that was the killer for me. And I wasn't aware that was happening. If I'd have been aware, I wouldn't have gone to Cardiff.
Well, yeah, because the idea to go out on loan is to play more. So if you're going on loan and then you're told you can't play again, you might as well stay where you was and waited. Yeah.
Yes, and they wouldn't. So I couldn't be in the squad sometimes. But again, I learned a lot off the goalkeeper coach, Mike Marginson, obviously working with Tom Eaton and Stephen Bywater, as well as other players. I had some friends there. So living in Cardiff and being in Cardiff was great. The difficulty was the loan agreement that I had signed was not what I should have signed. I shouldn't have gone. That's the reality. And then I went to Scotland. Was happy to, at the time I was happy to go to Scotland. Aberdeen is a sleeping giant of a club. Just at the time, the manager and the way the manager wanted to take the club was just in the wrong way, and that was with Craig Brown. And I had a big falling out with Craig Brown. He lied to me on a couple of occasions, and that's one of the worst things to ever do to me is lie to me. I can take the truth. As hard and as harsh as it may be, I can take it. I'll get on with it. I may not agree with it, but I'll get on with it. And when I went to when I went to Aberdeen, I was told I was going to be number 1, but they already again had another goalkeeper in on loan from Man City, and the agreement is he had to play. He had to play. And I wasn't happy about that. And I said, you brought me here under false pretenses. So that was our first kind of clash. And then once I got in the team, I'd done well and everything began all right. But I just wasn't happy with my goalkeeper coach, who was Jim Leighton, who back in the day was a legend at Man.
Back in the 80s and early 90s, I remember him playing you.
Yeah, he was a legend of a player, but as a coach, he was terrible. I was going into games incredibly fatigued, and I found it really difficult. And then what happened is that I came back. I played for Wales in the summer. I'd done really well for Wales against Mexico. And, speaking with speaking with Chris Coleman at the time, I was going to be the Wales number 1. And then I spoke to Craig Brown. I said, look, I'm looking to have a big season for me this year. He was like, yeah, you're going to get loads of games in. And then he didn't. And I was like, excuse me. He was like, well, you reported back from pre-season. Yeah, but you gave me the time off. You said for me to have a rest because I played most of the summer. So he's like, yeah.
The time off and then punished you for that.
Basically, yeah. And then he was like, he told me I was going to be number 1. And then on the first game of the season, I wasn't. And, I was just like, wow. So I went and see him and I said, like, why would you do that? Why would you lie? And he's like, I don't know. And, he said one thing that was quite funny because he said to me at the time, he said, if I was 10 years younger, I would knock you out. I said, no, if you was 10 years younger, you'd have been laying on the floor. It was quite ironic, the conversation. And yeah, I wanted out straight away because I didn't want to be around anyone like that. But then I went to Ipswich. I had a great time with Mick McCarthy. But then I started thinking about after football. So I started thinking about after play, and then I started doing more coaching. I was enjoying the coaching, and I was feeling that I could help more. And then I made the decision to go part-time, semi-professional, and start coaching. So I was coaching at Leighton Orient. Then I went to
because you was
Millwall.
local to us. You was local to Jill. Was your last? Was it Dover? Was your last? Or was it Dartford?
No, Dartford. So I went semi-pro, and I was coaching at Millwall, and I was enjoying that, and I was coaching at Arsenal women as well. So I was enjoying because I'm starting to, and I was doing my coaching badges with Wales. I was coaching the young goalkeepers at Wales as well. So I was starting, and I was enjoying that more. And then my dad died, and
so this is what we spoke about earlier, 2015.
Yeah. And when my dad died, it was just like someone just, untied a balloon. Something went. Matt, I just lost this. It was just something went. I spent the last 14 days of my dad's life with him in hospital. When I came out of hospital, Tony Byrne, who was the manager at Dartford, who's still there, he's a good guy, and he just said to me, "Look, take your time. Don't worry about football.
Yeah.
You take your time." And he gave me that time, and the depression had really kicked in. Really kicked in then. And I remember coming back to training, and I was like, "Oh, I think I need this." And I remember playing in a game, and my mind was somewhere else. And my mind was off.
The fact that you just said, "I think I need this," was probably a clue that maybe you weren't quite where you needed to be doing it. If you said, because you could have said, "I do need this," then you probably thought, "Yeah, we're still all right." But if you start thinking it's maybe I need this, then maybe you don't as well.
Yeah, because I lost that something, that fight, not that fight, but the competitiveness. And I remember being in the game, and I was in the game, and I wasn't my normal self. I was just off with the throws. I just couldn't wait to get off the pitch. And I remember being in the change room afterwards, and I was just like, "I'm done." I said to myself, I knew it. I was like, "I'm done." And then I remember training enough. I had a real tight hamstring, and that's when I knew, like,
just I don't need this anymore.
Yeah, and I didn't play for the remainder of the season. I had a tight hamstring. Normally, I just want the competitiveness, wants to get back. Then my uncle died. Then I split up with my ex-wife, and I made the decision to retire, and it was just so much. My ex-wife, she had an affair. I think that's the best way to, just to be honest there. And that was really hard for me. Talk about kick someone when they're down, in the space of that.
So this is all in 2015?
This is all in 8 months. In the 8 months ago, my dad died, uncle died. She had the affair. I retired from football. And I was just like, wow.
Yeah, a lot of constant things in your life, isn't it? I mean, your dad's always there until he goes. That's the same for all of us. You've been a footballer, like you said, since you was a teenager. That's gone. And then, then your uncle as well. You'd have grown up, with him, and then.
Well, it was just tough. It was just so much, and that's when you start getting to know the person, Jason. I remember being in hospital with my dad, and that's when you start. You're sitting there every second of every day. Not every second I was with him. I didn't change clothes the whole time I was there. I sat by his bedside, and you start thinking a lot, and start realizing a lot, and that's when possibly the little boy of 8 possibly took over.
Yeah.
The footballer had gone to the side, and the boy of 8 had taken over, being with my dad. Do you know what I mean? I'm just trying to paint a picture. So that little boy of 8 being with his dad, looking up, trying to look after him, and then going home back to my house, and just that person, that boy still being there, but trying to go into a man's world just wasn't matching up. And I couldn't force. It's all. I think the best analogy almost is like the Incredible Hulk. That David Banner takes over, and I'm trying to get the old cow, but he's just like, Yeah, so in the last, I'm a big fan of the Marvel films, but I suppose like, in the last one where he can't get the Hulk to come out and he's tried everything and he just won't come out because he's scared. And that's what kind of happened. I think that's the best analogy to give it. He just wouldn't come out. He just wouldn't. And now the person's here and he's dealing with all of this. And dealing with all of this is way, way, way too. This is too much. This is too raw. I need the footballer to come out, and the football player just wouldn't come out in me. And the person was there, and then that's when the breakdown happened.
So what you almost wanted the footballer to come out more so that you could forget about
yes,
being
to protect me. Yeah, to protect me, because that has been my protection against anything that's gone on in my life that's been tough. In dealing with stuff, the footballer comes in and takes over and
then you retire, and that protection goes.
Well,
you have no choice but to deal with Jason, the person.
The rawness, the rawness of it all, and that was really raw and incredibly raw, and at the time I started coaching at Gillingham before I found out about my ex-wife and stuff.
I remember you having I had a photo with you at Gillingham. I think it was at Folkestone.
Yes.
That summer, and then I think you'd gone within about a week.
Well, what happened was I came in just in Edinburgh.
You come in first. Justin's first full season. Well, his only full season in the end. Again, God rest his soul.
Yeah, rest in peace. And I came in and I was enjoying it. Justin was brilliant. He let me get on with things, but he was like, look, the chairman's away. He's coming back. We're going to get the deal done. This is what it is. Okay. So there was, again, there wasn't much negotiation. This is what the package was. Okay. So just waiting for the chairman to do it. And in amongst that time, I was still coaching at Arsenal Ladies because I was enjoying it. And I got a phone call. And then I got a phone call from Arsenal's PA asking me to come and meet him and the academy manager. So I went in and I met Andries Jonkers, who was the academy manager, who was Van Gaal's number 2 everywhere he went to apart from Man United.
Right.
Then Arsene wanted to meet me. I met Arsene and we spoke for about 45 minutes. And, I got a phone call. I remember, was it Tunbridge? I think we played Tunbridge in a friendly, and I got a phone call. I had a message on my phone. From Arsenal saying, from Andries Jonkers saying Arsene wants me to take over as head of goalkeeping. So I was like, okay. I was like, when do you want me to start? They was like, come in on a Wednesday. This was on a Saturday. So then I had to tell Justin. And I said to Justin, look, I've not had no contract put in front of me.
So you're almost back to where you were in 2006.
Yeah, no contract
in place, and then nothing's forthcoming properly. And again, similar to when you was going to Swansea and then went to Blackburn. No disrespect to Gills because it's my football club, but you're not going to turn down Arsenal to go and coach at Gills.
No,
unless you like.
Do you know what?
Again, a little bit more.
Well, again, Matt, if the deal would have been put on the table, I'd have been at Gillingham as goalkeeper coach.
Because you'd have decided maybe before Arsenal made the phone call.
Yeah, and then there was nothing. There was no urgency, no nothing. And it was like, okay, well, payday's coming up. Am I going to get paid or what? I've got a family to support.
Of course.
And, going to Arsenal was an amazing experience, obviously working there, head of goalkeeping. It was an amazing experience. It was an interesting experience, and it taught me a lot about football and dealing with things off the pitch. And, that's helped me in my coaching career to enable me to coach all around the world, which I've been doing. And, I'm so grateful for that. And again, if things would have been done at Gills, I would have, well, I don't know. I don't think I would have still been there, but I would have been there for a little bit longer than I was.
For the fortnight.
yeah, basically, yeah.
Like you said, though, life's life, and you have to crack on.
Yeah. It's just I do look out for the results. Obviously, like the manager now, he seems like he's kind of got things a lot better than what it was. I think he had a bit of a rocky start.
Yeah, we chucking away lead start of the season, but then got settled, and we finished really well. And he was massively disappointed that we couldn't get the final 9 games played, because he was adamant that we were getting in the top 6. But unfortunately, no one envisaged a worldwide pandemic taking over, and we'll see next season. But unfortunately, I think this thing might be an ITV digital part 2, unfortunately.
Well, it's not looking great. I think, especially if they talk about having a second wave. You know, that's always in the back of everyone's mind, though we're still not over the first one.
Yeah.
I think maybe, you know, I've done a couple of interviews and I said I think this is where the Premier League as a brand can filter some of that money through, because
Paul Scally was one of the first to come out and say that we needed help. And he said the first weekend after we'd been stopped from playing, and said we've got 3 months with no income, and then he's not sure what's going to happen. Well, that was middle of March, and we're now nearly in July, so we're right on the edge, I'd imagine.
Well, again, I think you have to take that with a bit of pinch of salt, because that's always been the case ever since I've known about Gillingham.
You've had more dealings with him than I have. I just, I get fed what I see on social media and read in the newspaper, and I'm not a Paul Scally hater. I'm not a Paul Scally lover. I'm more interested in the football side of things, Jason, and, he's not perfect, but what chairman is? There's not many that are perfect, and who doesn't make mistakes, but it'd be interesting to see how we move forward from what's been a tricky 3 months. But
I think hopefully, as I said, with the brand of the Premier League, is obviously they're still able, because I've got a game on now, they're still able to broadcast football, which a huge part of their source of income is from the team. So I think to be able to sort of filter some of that down to help the smaller clubs, but I think this will also be good for the smaller for the clubs outside the Premier League to maybe start getting their books a little bit more in order. Of course,
we've had talk of maybe regionalising it at League One and League Two level, or salary caps, but I'd imagine teams like Sunderland might have something to say with that in League One.
Yeah. Well, I don't think salary caps is the way to go.
No, I'm not sure that'd work. To be fair, if you've got the money and you want to spend it, you spend it, and then if you overspend it, then you take the consequences. So,
and that's what I was getting to, is that now this may help most or some clubs get their books in order, because this has happened, and with the amount of money that's involved in football, this shouldn't be the case, with the furlough of sons and things like that. So hopefully clubs can look at it like that. But as I said, I think that some money from the Premier League and from the FA can be filtered through to try and help clubs. Obviously, the PFA are going to be there for the players, so they can help the players. There's enough money to help the players. You got what people don't realise is that at the Premier League, that the PFA get 1% of every single transfer for every single player in the UK. In England,
so they're making a fair bit that way, then, yeah.
Well, when you watch Sky Sports in January, you watch it in the summer. I think in January there was nearly £5 billion that was done in the deals in January. So when you look at it, you take 1% of every.
It's a decent lump sum, yeah.
Yeah. So I think in regards to the players, they're always going to be there and able to help the players. In regards of the football clubs, the only way you're going to be able to monitor that is by sending in the books to the FA and to the Premier League to see, and then they'll be able to say who needs what type of help.
We shall see.
Definitely.
Right. I think we'll start wrapping it. I've just noticed the time. It's been 2 hours and it's absolutely flown by. I've really enjoyed it. It's been eye-opening, and I appreciate you opening up on things that you probably didn't have to. Talking to a bloke that runs a YouTube channel. So I really do appreciate you taking the time and like I say, discussing things that probably weren't on the list of questions when we got started. Gills fans, I hope you've enjoyed this one as much as I've enjoyed recording it. You know where we are. We're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, and we're on YouTube. Hopefully we'll be back with some real football soon. But until next time, up the Gills.